Yo, what's up everyone? This is Austin from Calling Our Shot, and you see the title. I'm going to be breaking down some players in the NBA and whether or not I think they will make the All-Star game. Got to make this video today as the All-Star reserves will be announced tomorrow. So we'll be able to use this video to compare to tomorrow and see how I did. And really, I'm just going to give you my predictions for the All-Star reserves. We have already seen the starters. Some people on this reserves will be no-brainers, but let's get into them right now. If you do not know, the reserves for the All-Star game will be picked by the head coaches. It does not take into account fan voting, player voting, or the media voting. It is all by the coaches, as well as in the positions that they get. There are 7 different All-Star reserve spots. You got 2 guards, 3 front court, and then 2 wild card players. Let's start with the Western Conference because the Eastern Conference is very debatable, and you will see that as we get to it. The Western Conference is pretty set in stone. There's a couple that are like, give or take, but I like the players that I picked. And we're going to start with the Western Conference guards. You have to pick Damian Lillard, no doubt. He arguably could be a starter, but we're going to take him as the first reserve. And then I will take Donovan Mitchell as well. He is Donovan Mitchell, best player on the best team with the best record, the Utah Jazz. No way you can leave Donovan Mitchell off of this team. Moving on to the front court, Paul George, guaranteed he will make the team, as well as Anthony Davis, although AD, the brow, has missed a couple games recently and has not been up to his normal play that we normally see from him as an almost MVP caliber player. But he's still going to make the All-Star team. And then as my final front court in the Western Conference, I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert. He's not normally your typical flashy All-Star player that you might expect, but Gobert is second best player on this Utah Jazz team. I think he'll make the cut in the front court for the Western Conference All-Star reserves. Now is where we get interesting. You have your reserves and your wild card reserves. These can be any player out there, and this is where it can get debatable. And man, we're going to start with, at the first reserve, Chris Paul. And man, it's tough, and you could argue for Devin Booker. And you know what? I'll cut to the chase. Devin Booker will also make it here, but he's going to be my injury replacement. As you know, Anthony Davis is out. They'll get an injury replacement for him. And I'm going to choose both of the Suns to make the All-Star team. Sure, if it were AD were not inactive or out for this game, I would still only pick Chris Paul. And that's just because when you think about the Suns and all their success they've had this year, a lot of it is going to be attributed to Chris Paul's arrival. Sure, Devin Booker's been great this year. He's been as consistent as what you would expect from him. But it's Chris Paul. He's the old veteran. The coaches picked these players, and he is a legend. And I don't think they would choose Booker over CP3, even though you might think one's better than the other. That's why I'm going to put Chris Paul over Booker. But like I said, Booker will make it in as an injury replacement. And then my final, technically second to last, player that will make the wild card reserves, I'm going to put Zion Williamson. I know I had a lot of people coming at me for Brandon Ingram, and there's a lot of people, and I'll go through the people that just missed this, but Zion Williamson, when you think about him, how dominant he has been, 25 points per game, he's been insanely good despite the Pelicans not being too good and really not exceeding their expectations, not even meeting them. They have been abysmal this year, and a lot of that can go to the coaching staff and the rotations they play, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Zion Williamson and why he just makes the cut over his teammate Brandon Ingram. No disrespect to Brandon Ingram. I think he's a very talented player, but when you think about what the coaches are going to do, they're going to pick not only the player the fans want to see, but the player that they game plan the most against. And when you think about head coaches when they're game planning against the Pelicans, do you think they're going to game plan more for Zion or for Brandon Ingram? That's kind of what I think about. They've obviously watched tape on a lot of them, watched a lot of tape on both players, but I just think Zion Williamson, the hype, will get him into the All-Star game over Ingram. People that also just missed the list, De'Aaron Fox, man, he's been killing it this year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also been killing it. It's a shame they both can't make it. DeMar DeRozan, rest in peace to his dad, who I believe just passed away, so shout out to him, man. I hope everything gets better for him. Mike Conley, you could see him squeak into this, but Mike Conley's not one of the top, an all-star in the West. He just isn't. I know he's on the Jazz and he's a key player for them. Not going to make it. Jamal Murray, if he had been doing what he's been doing the last 4 or 5 games, yeah, he might be there, but hasn't been that consistent all year. And Christian Wood, if he weren't injured, he would be right there in the conversation. But sadly, he's been injured the last couple weeks, and that will keep him off the ballot. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, and man, a lot of these players, Let me know your lineups down below because this can be very controversial, and we'll see how I pan out tomorrow. But starting at guard, I got the easiest selection on the board, James Harden. No doubt he will be on the All-Star team, and he will be one of the first guards announced. And then that's when it gets tricky because no one else on this list. There's a couple that, 99% will make it. Jaylen Brown, my other starting guard, insanely good this year. 25, 26 points per game on the Celtics team. He carried them while Tatum was out 5 to 6 games. He's been insanely good all year, really taking a step up from where he was last year. And I think he easily makes it as one of the guards. Moving on to the front court, we got 3 of them. I got Domantas Sabonis. I don't think there's much question about him making the lineup. He's been the best player on the Pacers this year, who are in the Eastern Conference playoff series predictions. Man, the Pacers are going to make the playoffs, and a lot of that goes with Sabonis. He's been unreal this year, averaging a double-double, has arguably almost the most double-doubles in the league. He'll easily make it. Jason Tatum, I should have listed him first in the front court. He'll easily make it again. Jason Tatum, he's a walk-in bucket. He's insanely talented and going to be an all-star for many years to come. And then the last one is questionable. I'm going to go with Julius Randle. If you look at the Knicks, man, Randle has been averaging 23 points per game, carrying this team on his back. He's had several great performances, 40-plus points, and it's hard to not put Randle in my reserves. And I'm a Knicks homer, so I'm going to pick him. But when you look at his stats and how good the Knicks have been this year, 7th in the Eastern Conference at the moment, it's hard to not put Randle in there. And so I'm going to put him in. He's been the best player on this Knicks team. And there's a lot of people that you could have put in this front court spot. And I will get into those in 2 seconds. But, man, Randle, he deserves the All-Star nod. I could have done a whole video on him breaking down his stats. But I don't need to do that. I think he makes it this year. Moving on to my 2 wild card positions. And these were arguably the 2 hardest spots to pick. And I'm looking at my list right now. And I honestly want to flip-flop some of them. But we're going to go with Zach LaVine and Trae Young. I know. You might be like face-palming. Man, what the hell? Where's Chris Middleton? Where's Bam Adebayo? Ben Simmons? Vucevic? It's so tough to pick this Eastern Conference reserves, and that's why I want you guys to leave your guys' reserves in the comment section below. But when you think about Trae Young, think about Zach LaVine, who's averaging 29 points per game. And I know last year, I believe Bradley Beal did not make it, and he was averaging 30 points a game. And all the slander the head coaches got. And yeah, the Bulls aren't good, and really neither are the Hawks. They're 13 and 17, but both these players are insanely talented. LaVine's been playing out of his mind, 30-plus points in like 6 of 7 games. He's insanely good, and Trae Young, he's carrying this Hawks team. And I know the coaches do not love Trae Young. You saw Steve Nash's comments. He's like, that's not real basketball. He's gotten a lot of slander. And yeah, it's going to be tough. This is going to be tough to make, and there's going to be snubs, and we can make a whole nother video on the biggest snubs and whether or not I get this right or wrong. There are so many different outcomes. But yeah, Trae Young and Zach LaVine, my final 2 wild card reserves for the Eastern Conference. Players that will just miss it. I already listed pretty much all of them. Ben Simmons, he's close. Chris Middleton. One last point on Trae Young, man. He was a starter last year in the NBA All-Star game. It's hard to envision someone going from a starter all the way to not even making the team. That wouldn't make much sense. He hasn't even had a drop-off. I think he easily makes it again this year. But yeah, people have missed it. I already talked about Vucevic, man. As a Knicks and a Magic fan, I know you can't call me a bandwagon because neither of them are really that good. But I've always been a fan of both. And Vooch deserves it. The Magic are just not that good, 13 and 18. Vucevic has been extraordinary this year, 24, 25 points a game. If it weren't for him, this Magic team would arguably be the worst team in the NBA. And man, Chris Middleton, he's in the 50, 40, 90 club right now. God, it hurts to not put him in there. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, one of those 2. Wouldn't be surprised if one of those 2 made it over Randle or Sabonis. I just think Randle and Sabonis both deserve it. The Heat have not been good this year, but Bam Adebayo, if you put Bam or Jimmy in there, I wouldn't be mad at you at all. Then the next, Ben Simmons, man. I just, like I said, man, I want to switch some of these players into my lineup, into my reserves, but I can't. I struggled with this for like a couple hours, and this is what I decided on. Ben Simmons barely misses it. If he had been playing like Ben Simmons in February all year, I'd put him in there, but he's averaging 22 points per game in February, but he was terrible. Well, not terrible, he still was great player in the NBA, but he was not very good over the first 2 months, or I guess month and a half. And then Jeremy Grant, he deserved just some recognition. 23, 24 points per game. He's been insanely good this year. And I figured he deserved some respect because he hardly gets it in the Pistons, who have one of the worst records in the NBA. And yeah, those are going to do my predictions for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference All-Star reserves. We'll see how it goes tomorrow when we look at the rest of the lineups. But this has been Austin. Leave me your comments down below and click that subscribe button. Really appreciate it. This has been Austin. I'll catch you guys soon. Peace out.